Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. Today I am doing another reading vlog, more specifically part 2 of my 24-hour reading challenge. If you haven't seen part 1, I will link it in the description box as well as up in the eye in the corner. I would highly recommend watching that video first so that you know what this challenge is all about and what progress I have made so far. But just to give you a little rundown, this challenge is something that was inspired by the 24 and 48 reading challenge. I'm sure somebody has done this version before as well, but it's just something I came up on the spot with a week ago. But basically what I'm doing is every time, it's actually more of like an experiment than really a challenge, but every time I read every day, I am setting the stopwatch on my phone, and basically the goal is just to vlog until I reach 24 hours worth of reading. So with the 24 and 48 readathon, you're supposed to do it within a 48-hour period, but I'm not giving myself a period of time that I have to complete it by. I'm just gonna vlog until I reach the 24 hours just to see how long it takes me, how many books I'm able to complete or pages I'm able to read within 24 hours of reading. Hopefully that makes sense. So in part 1 of this vlog, I read for the first 12 hours. Now in part 2, we'll be completing the second 12 hours, and I also was able to complete 4 books in the 12 hours, and it took me about a week to complete 12 hours worth of reading. This time I'm hoping it won't take me quite as many days to reach that 12 hours of reading. I'm hoping to really prioritize my reading within these next few days. I've been really stressed out this past week, but I'm hoping that this coming week I will be a little bit less stressed, which means I should be able to concentrate on my reading a little bit more. But yeah, I started this reading challenge on the 13th, and it is now the 20th. So it's also 7 p.m., I should mention. And today, technically, I only did about 40 minutes of reading this morning, and then I didn't read the whole rest of the day. So I have my progress from before, but I'm going to actually reset it and start from 0 so that we can just work up to the 12 hours, but altogether it'll be 24 hours. You get it. I don't have to explain it to you. I haven't actually picked out what book I'm going to be reading next because I'm still kind of, I guess you would call it a book hangover from the last book that I read, which was Salt to the Sea. This is a historical fiction book. Like, it's kind of a heavy book, but I absolutely loved it. It is probably my favorite book of the year. Actually, it's definitely my favorite book of the year. I don't know if another book this year will be able to take its title, but that's how much I loved it. So I am in a bit of a like book hangover from this book, and it also, whenever you read a book that you love that much, it's like you just know that any book you pick up after this, or like the next book you pick up after this, you're just setting it up for failure because this book was just so good. So, not really sure what to pick up. I think because this was kind of a heavier book, I want to go for something a little bit lighter. I'm thinking maybe I'll go for a fantasy book. Probably going to be something YA, because I think that's just what I'm in the mood for. Or I'm like, do I want to read like a thriller book? I honestly can't decide. I do feel like I want something a little fast-paced, so we might go down the thriller route. But I'm actually not feeling super swell today, so I am going to take a shower and then I will peruse my bookshelves, because that's what I did when I picked out this book. Was not planning to read it this week at all. Just randomly was looking through my shelves. It stood out to me for whatever reason, and I fell in love with it. So I think I want to do that again, because it's been a while since I haven't, like, slightly planned my TBR in advance. So that is what I'm going to do, and then I will probably just update y'all tomorrow. So it is now the next evening. Last night I didn't end up reading anymore because I just wasn't feeling very good last night, but as of today I have read for a grand total of 1 hour and 49 minutes, so just under the 2-hour mark. I'm really hoping to get above the 2-hour mark before the end of tonight. Ideally, I'd actually love to get above the 3-hour mark because, like I said, I want to try and complete these 12 hours faster than my first attempt at this, but we will see. As for the book that I decided to pick up, I thought I would go down the thriller route, and the only one that I really had on my shelf was The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. This is, as per usual, a book that was very popular, like 2 or 3 years ago on BookTube, and I am just, 5 million steps behind everybody else when it comes to reading books. But honestly, sometimes that pays off because I actually found this secondhand for like $1 a year or two ago. So sometimes it pays to not read books as soon as they come out, because then you end up with like a nice hardcover copy like this. So yeah, this is a book that I've heard a lot of good things about. It is blurbed on the back by a lot of authors that I enjoy, such as Gillian Flynn and Stephen King and Ruth Ware, and that's only naming the ones that I know. It's been blurbed by a lot of people, so I was expecting really good things out of this book, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not loving it. I am currently on page 175, so like I'm reasonably into it, like not quite the halfway mark, but almost there. And it's just, I don't know if it's like how I said yesterday that any book that I pick up just isn't going to be good in comparison to the book I read before, or if it's just I was too hyped for this book, or if it's just genuinely not that good. Because as of, and granted, I haven't finished it yet, so maybe what everybody loves about this book is the ending, but as of 175 pages in, it just feels like every other thriller that I've read. So we're following a woman who has agoraphobia, so she does not leave her house, but she spies on all of her neighbors, and this new family moves in on her street, and she spies on them, and then she sees something that she probably shouldn't have, which is how it's described in the synopsis on the inside cover of this book. Thing is, that thing that happens, like the inciting incident of the book, doesn't happen until over 100 pages into the book. So up until this point, I've just kind of been bored, and still up until the point that I'm reading, it just feels like most of the other thrillers that I've read. It doesn't feel like anything new, and honestly, with a lot of thrillers that I read, I find the main characters to be really dislikable, which is why, even though I would consider thriller to be like one of my favorite genres, I don't actually like a lot of the thrillers that I read. I don't know if that makes sense, but usually it's because the main characters are just not very likable in adult thrillers. I don't know why that is a common thing, but it is, and that's how I feel about this book. So overall, I'm just kind of meh about the whole thing, and frankly, I'm actually more interested in this, like, more like on the side of a contemporary storyline that's between like her and her husband, because they separated and they have a daughter, and the daughter is currently living with the husband, and we keep getting like little flashback scenes of what happened between her and her husband, and I'm way more invested into that storyline than what's going on with her spying on her neighbors. So I would DNF this book, but I feel like I'm almost 200 pages into it, so I may as well just like keep going. So yeah, that is my update for today. Tomorrow, I don't know how much reading I'm going to get done because we're actually going to go view an apartment, so hopefully that goes well. And yeah, that is all for tonight, and I will probably update you sometime again tomorrow. Hi guys, so it is now the next evening. I'm gonna be honest, it's 8 o'clock in the evening, and I have only read for 46 minutes today, making for a grand total of 2 hours and 46 minutes towards my 12-hour goal. I'm just having a really lazy mental health day. I'm just feeling a little down about everything. We went to view the apartment this afternoon, and I was really excited for this apartment, but it was a nice apartment, don't get me wrong, but it just felt very cramped and small and kind of claustrophobic for the price that it was at, because like the apartment that we viewed, they're not furnished, but the one that we viewed did have furniture in it because it was like their model demo, whatever you want to call it, and it just had like the basics in it. Like it had a couch and a TV and a dining room table, and like in the bedrooms there was a bed and there was a dresser, but it was like very cramped for the price that it was. And then of course on top of that, I am in the process of trying to adopt 2 kittens because my last cat died last April, and it's been a really horrible time for me. Like, I think my mental health has not been this bad in a really long time, and I really think it's because of the lack of fur babies in my life. So I'm in the process of trying to adopt 2 kittens. So of course, whenever I'm looking for an apartment, I always have to look into their pet fees, because even if this apartment was like already a little bit out of my price range, but then on top of that, they whacked on a $300 pet fee per cat that I have to just pay up front, plus an extra $50 a month for both cats, and then another $50 added to the security deposit so that it equals what the month's rent would be. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Because the thing is, we all know if those were human babies, I would not be paying these fees, and we know that the humans will make more of a mess than my two little kittens. But nonetheless, it didn't work out, so I felt a little bit sad about it. So for the last like 2 hours, I've been trying to entertain myself by watching Karen compilations on YouTube, which I fall into this hole from time to time, but I find them very entertaining. My favorite parts are when they start yelling about how you can't kick me out because this is a public property. No, it's not. It's a private business, so you need to get out. And then they start quoting the law, even though now they're trespassing, and then the cops show up, and I find it all very entertaining, especially as someone who works in retail. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last half hour. As far as my reading goes, I am on page 272 of The Woman in the Window, and it has not gotten any better. And in fact, it got even a little bit worse because turns out this author is apparently not up to any good. He is well, first of all, this isn't his real name, but apparently he's like I don't know if like a pathological liar is the correct terminology, but he's landed himself into a string of lies about just the craziest things. I think it was like he said he had a doctorate degree from Oxford University. He said that he survived a brain tumor. He said his mom died of cancer. He said his brother committed suicide. Just like a string of all these things, and then it comes out he doesn't have a doctorate from anywhere. He didn't have a brain tumor. His mom beat her cancer, and his brother is still alive. So I don't know what this author is doing, but he's not writing good books in my opinion. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now, and frankly, I've realized that I think one of the reasons why, like besides everything going on in my brain, I think one of the reasons why I only read for 46 minutes today was because I'm just not into this book. I still feel like I'm too far into it to just DNF it. So I thought I would simultaneously try and read another book. So I downloaded the audiobook for The Flat Share. I don't know if you can see that. It doesn't look like you can, but it is a book by Beth O'Leary. It's like a contemporary romance book, I believe, which a lot of people raved about last year, I want to say. And I actually rented this book from the library, and then I just never ended up reading it. But I recently got back into watching Carrie Hope Fletcher. She is a YouTuber and like a Broadway star, and she's written a couple books. I read one of her books, and I watched her for a really long time, but I kind of like fall in and out of watching her videos, and she's recently started posting more book content, so I totally fell back into her videos, and I've just been binging like all of them. And in one of them she mentioned that she narrated the audiobook for this book. Well, she co-narrated it because I think it's told from the perspective of the guy and the girl, and she plays the part of the girl. So I'm really excited to give this a listen, and hopefully this will help me make a little bit more progress with both my reading and my time. So yeah, I think that is all for tonight, and as per usual, I will update y'all tomorrow. So it is now the next day. It is actually 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which I'm pretty proud of myself because this is the earliest that I have vlogged in a very long time. Y'all know I usually don't start vlogging until at least 7 p.m., which is usually because I don't have anything to say until that point. But I actually have completed a whole book since the last time that I talked to you. It was a poetry collection, but it still counts as a book. So this audiobook stuff has just changed the game for this challenge. I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner, but I told you all that I downloaded the Flat Share on my Overdrive app. Literally right after that, check my email, and I see that there is an email from them saying that I have an audiobook that I requested that's ready to be checked out, and it's been months since I have requested an audiobook, so I had no clue what it was. Turns out it was I Would Leave Me If I Could by Halsey, which is her poetry collection, and this was actually the first book that I read this year. I read a physical version of it, and I really liked their poetry. I'm not a poetry person, so I don't know whether it's actually like good or bad poetry. It's kind of angsty, which is probably why I like it. But besides Tim Burton, this is probably my favorite poetry collection that I've read. So when I read it in January, I saw that there was an audiobook for it, which was read by the author, which I love when books are read by their authors. So I requested it, but I guess everybody else did also, since that was on January 1st. It is now the end of March. So I downloaded it and I listened to it a bit last night, but mostly this morning when I got ready. It was only like an hour and a half long, and I really enjoyed it. 4 stars as per usual. Then I did start the flat share, but I'm only 13 minutes in, so I don't really have much to say about it. As far as my overall time, I have read for 4 hours and 8 minutes, and today alone I've read for 51 minutes. Yesterday I only read for an hour and 16 minutes because yesterday just wasn't a very good day. But hopefully today I'm just trying to relax, not think about things too much. I've got on my Baby Yoda shirt. I haven't worn this in a while. It like fell down the back of my closet, but I found it today, so I thought I would wear it because Baby Yoda always makes me happy. If you ever don't have enough Baby Yoda in your life, you should follow my Instagram stories, because that's what 90% of my Instagram is, Baby Yoda, and then like 10% books, even though it's a Bookstagram account. So, yeah. But as for the rest of the day, I am gonna hopefully try and pick up more of The Woman in the Window. I'm still not enjoying it. I didn't pick it up since yesterday, so we're gonna see how much I get through that today, but I'm mostly probably gonna focus on listening to this audiobook. I think this afternoon I'll make myself a cup of coffee and just kind of relax and try not to think about stuff too much. So it is now 6:30 in the evening, and I thought I would do a little update. I'm kind of frustrated right now. One, because I just look like a potato today, and I think it's a little bit because this neckline is like weirdly large, but also I've got these massive pimples on my chin that are so large they probably have their own postal code by now. But I'm also a little frustrated because I just feel like this vlog is not going as well as the first one. Like, in part 1, I think we had, like, quality over quantity. So I was reading really good books, but my timing was just not great. Like, I was just doing it real slowly. Whereas in this video, I feel like my timing's a little bit better, like I'm reading more each day, but the quality of the books, not great. Like, besides the poetry collection we just talked about, I'm just not having good luck with these books. So I've officially reached the 5-hour mark as far as my total number of hours read, and I read up to page 300 in The Woman in the Window, and I'm just still not enjoying this book. I've officially reached the point where I think I'm actually like speed reading it / skimming it, which isn't great, but I don't super care. It's honestly not the most like intricate thriller ever, so it's not like you have to pay attention that bad. Like, you don't have to read every line. I feel like I can skim over a lot of it, and I still am just as bored with everything that's going on. And then I think I listened to about 45 minutes worth of the flat share, and I don't want to say I'm not enjoying it either, but I am struggling to concentrate on it. And, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of bored, kind of not enjoying it. And I think the reason that is because, is this the worst camera angle ever? Yes. We're just going to point that out and then move on. And I was trying to think about the reason of like why I'm struggling so bad to concentrate on this audiobook specifically, and I don't think it has to do with the actual story. I don't think it has to do with the narrators. I don't think it has to do with anything like that. I think it is actually because I never read fiction in audiobook form. I only listen to audiobooks that are nonfiction. And like, of the nonfiction that I've read, probably 90% of it has been consumed through the form of audio. And so then I was still thinking like, well, why is it that I can consume a nonfiction book but not a fiction one? And I think it's because I'm a very character-driven reader, and so when I'm not reading it on the page, it's a little bit harder for me to connect with the characters, I guess. And like with nonfiction, either you're reading books that aren't supposed to be like a character-driven book because it's not like a story or something like that, you're like learning about a subject, whereas, or with, let's say, something that's like a memoir, I'm already familiar with the person that this book is about, or they're narrating it, so it's a lot easier to, you're like, I'm already invested in their character, if that makes sense, because I'm not reading a memoir of somebody that I don't know. So I really think that that's why I'm struggling with this audiobook specifically, is because I don't ever consume fiction stories in an audiobook form, and I'm struggling to get into it. So I honestly think I'm probably going to DNF this audiobook. I really wanted to read it because I really like Carrie Hope Fletcher, and I still think that she's really good at narrating it. I just can't concentrate on it. And also, the way that the book is set up is that it's about this guy and girl, and it's told in like alternating chapters between their perspectives, and they're basically doing this flat share where I think she lives in the apartment during the day, he lives there at night, or vice versa, something like that. I think she lives there at night, he lives there during the day, and they never see each other, and they just communicate through like notes because they're never there at the same time, and then I think they fall in love because it's a romance. So that's what it's about. It's told in alternating chapters, and there was a creative choice made with the guys' chapters with the writing style, because it's just very clunky is the word I'm going to use, and like the female characters' chapters, I know it's not just the writing, because her chapters are fine and they're read fine, and again, I don't think it was the narrator's choice, like the way the narrator's reading it. You can clearly tell that there was a creative writing choice made when it came to the male character, where the writing is just written in a different way than I'm used to hearing. So if anything, I think I might actually enjoy it better just reading it because of the way that that writing is. I think it would probably be better for my brain to just read it in the way that I want to, and not the way that I'm listening to it being read. I don't know if that makes sense, and I also could be completely wrong. Like, actually reading it off the page might make the writing even clunkier than hearing someone read it to me, but that's just my opinion as of right now. So I think I'm gonna give up on this audiobook for now, because it's just kind of a waste of time. Like, I can't concentrate on it, at least in this moment. And I'm just gonna carry on with The Woman in the Window. I really want to finish it soon, because I kind of don't want to read another book simultaneously with it. So I'm just gonna finish this one as quickly as possible, and then we'll move on to something else, and hopefully this book will be better, because I'm just not having very good luck with the books in this vlog. So it is now the next night, and I have got quite a bit to update you on. I made quite a lot of progress since the last time we talked. I feel like I probably should have set my tripod up for this update, because I like to talk with my hands a lot, and I always feel like I can't fully articulate myself when one of my hands is holding the camera, and that probably doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. But if you also like to talk with your hands, let me know if you find it difficult, if you ever have to like hold a camera or something, even though like this is not something most people do. As far as my timing goes, I have read for today alone, I have read for 2 hours and 34 minutes, which this is the most that I've read so far this week. Last week, I think the longest I read was for 2 hours and 50 minutes. So we're getting up there, and I might still beat that goal tonight. And then as for my overall time, I have read for 7 hours and 58 minutes. So basically for 8 hours. So I'm very happy with that. This morning I finished The Woman in the Window, and I ended up giving it 2 stars because obviously the ending happens, the twist happens, like all of the things that really make or break the book, but I would say due to my lack of enjoyment for most of this book, I still wouldn't recommend it, even though I did think that it had like a reasonably good ending. So I would say there was like 2 main twists that happened. So like I said, we're kind of wondering like what happened between her and her family, like her husband and stuff like that. So that was the first twist that happened, and I didn't see that coming, and I did like it. Then there's the other kind of plot line that we're following that is more of like the thrillery murder mystery, like who's the killer kind of thing. And as far as that reveal, I did actually predict who it was going to be, but I didn't predict like the circumstances around it, so I was still kind of shocked by that twist. So overall, I do think it had like a good ending, but I think the beginning and the middle and just, it was very, for me, slow, and I wasn't really into any of the characters. So because I wasn't invested in the characters, I wasn't super invested in the story, but that's just me as a very character-driven reader. So overall, I wouldn't recommend this book, but I do also know that a lot of other people did really enjoy it, so read it at your own discretion. And then I did end up downloading an audiobook just because I knew that an audiobook would be so much better for me doing this challenge. So I ended up downloading The Answer Is by Alex Trebek. So it is sometimes narrated by Alex Trebek, sometimes it is narrated by Ken Jennings, who was like one of the longest reigning champions on Jeopardy! So he narrates most of it as well, and he's a really good narrator. But I just love this book. I was not planning on picking it up anytime soon, but I knew that I did want to read it at some point because like Alex Trebek, Pat Sajak, like Vanna White, they were like staple people in my childhood. Like I wanted to be Vanna White when I was a little girl, and I would always watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy before bed because I remember Wheel of Fortune came on at 7, I think, and Jeopardy came on at 7:30, and then after that, when I was like a really little kid, was then my bedtime. So yeah, I grew up watching that, so I'm super enjoying this book. It's just like really nice learning about his life because frankly I didn't know anything about him. Like I knew him from Jeopardy and I felt like I grew up watching him, but I don't know anything about him, if that makes sense. So this was a really nice book to read. And as far as my progress on it, the audiobook is split into 4 parts and I just started part 4. So it looks like I have 45 minutes left, but I'm reading it at 2 times speed, or I'm listening to it rather, so it should only take me less than a half hour to finish this book, and then I will have another book finished. And as for what I'm going to pick up after that, I honestly do not know. We're going to cross that bridge when I get there, which will be tonight, so I should probably start thinking. Hi guys, so it is now the next morning. Believe it or not, I am filming in the morning. It is 11 o'clock in the morning. This is the earliest that I have gotten ready and like put my face on. I haven't read yet today, but I do have to update you from last night. So far my grand total for how long I've read is 8 hours and 26 minutes. So we are so close to the ending. Yesterday I read for basically 3 hours exactly, which is the longest I've read in a day in a very long time. Last night I did finish The Answer Is, and I really enjoyed that book. Like, I was reading on Goodreads and some people were not giving it the greatest ratings because I don't think the book was what they expected it to be. And it isn't like your traditional memoir where like he really touches on his whole life. It was really more of like he pinpointed certain things that you could clearly tell these were things that were important for him. So he wanted to tell those stories, and sometimes they were kind of short and he didn't go super in depth, and he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that would do that, like would go super into the details of his whole life. He just like pinpointed certain stories, and I would be lying if I didn't say that I started to get a little misty-eyed at the end because he was talking about like his cancer and how it was affecting him and how he was dealing with it, and it really touched me. So I gave it 4 stars. I didn't give it 5 stars. I don't normally give nonfiction 5 stars because it just doesn't reach the same level, but personally I didn't find anything wrong with it that I wouldn't have given it 5 stars if I was rating it on that kind of level. Hopefully that makes sense, but I would totally recommend this to anybody, and I definitely want to go out and buy a physical copy of it because I believe he said at the end that all of the proceeds for this book goes to charity, so I really want to get myself a copy of that book. So I'm hoping today will actually be the final day of this reading challenge and I will reach the 12-hour mark, the 24-hour mark in total for these 2 reading vlogs. So I've got 2 more books that I hope to pick up today. One is a physical book and one is an ebook. I have not read an ebook in a super long time, but I came across this book when I was looking for audiobooks to read on my Overdrive app, and I would have gotten the audio version of this, but my Overdrive app only had the ebook version, and that is Disfigured, which is another nonfiction book that takes a look at disability and how it is represented in fairy tales from like Grimm and Hans Christian Andersen all the way up to like Disney and how we see it today. So yeah, I'm really excited to pick this book up. I don't think it's very long, so I'm kind of hoping I can read the entirety of it today. And then the physical book that I hope to read, I just picked off my bookshelves on a whim because I've just been really gravitating towards kind of shorter books, and because I think the longer books are gonna put me into a slump in the moment. So that is The Conspiracy of Us by Maggie Hall. I've talked about this quite a bit on my channel recently because this is a book that I have only heard one person on BookTube talk about this book, and that person described it as young adult national treasure, and that was years ago, and it has stuck in my head ever since because for some reason that is something that I want to read so bad. I'm not gonna lie, thoroughly enjoy the National Treasure movies. I'm really tired of them playing with my emotions by telling me that there's a third movie in the works, and it has been in the works for years, like since the second movie came out, and we still don't have it yet. And now there's like this new thing that apparently they're doing like a episode thing on Disney Plus, but I'm not falling for it because they caught me the first time with the third movie, and I just don't think it's happening, and I don't want to get my hopes up. But I'm going to try and settle my feelings by reading this book. That being said, I don't actually know what this book is about. I just know that I think it's like a mystery in the same sense as National Treasure, where there's like a trail of clues that have to do with, I assume, history and things that you have to find in like real historical places, which sounds super interesting to me. It also kind of reminds me of the 39 Clues, which was a middle grade series that I adored, and I even reread it a couple years ago and I loved it still. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to read this book, and I hope it holds up to what are clearly very high expectations. So it is now 1:30 in the afternoon. I wasn't planning on updating this soon because I know that this video is like already longer than part 1 and I wanted this part to be shorter, but I've read for about an hour this afternoon. I also put glasses on because I wanted to. So here we are. I've read for an hour so far today. I read about 40 pages of The Conspiracy of Us, and then I read about 50 pages or so of the Disfigured ebook. And I just remembered why it's been so long since I've read an ebook, and that is because they give me really bad headaches. So that is what is happening right now, which means there's definitely like no chance that I'm going to be completing this challenge today. I'm hoping to finish it tomorrow, but now I just don't know how much reading I'm going to be able to get done today. And if you want to know the real reason as to why I put glasses on, it's because, and I don't know if it actually works or if it's just that thing that I always forget the name of, where like you're told something works and then because you're told it, you believe it even though it doesn't actually help you. But I put the glasses on because they have like these little things that sit on your nose, and those for me somehow just squeezes this part of my face a little bit more, and that kind of helps with the headache feeling because it's a headache that just is like around my eyeballs. So the glasses either help me just because I believe that they do, but they don't actually, or maybe they do actually help, but that is why I put the glasses on. So it is now 8:30 in the evening, and I am definitely feeling a lot better than I was earlier today. As for right now, I think I'm giving up on that ebook. I don't think it was the ebook completely to blame for my headache. Like, I'm sure I probably would have ended up with a headache anyway. I just think the ebook brought it on sooner and stronger than it usually would be. So we're just gonna leave that ebook for a little while, but I did end up reading for another 40 minutes this afternoon for a grand total of an hour and 40 minutes today. So far, the night is still young, so I might read a little bit more, but I just passed the 10-hour mark, which means so long as something devastating doesn't happen within the next like 15 hours, knock on wood, I should be able to finish this challenge by tomorrow morning. So I was able to read up to about the 100-page mark in The Conspiracy of Us. This is definitely something I can see how it would be comparable to National Treasure, but I do think it falls more along the lines of the 39 Clues series, which could just be because in National Treasure we're following adults, in this book we're following young adults, and in the 39 Clues we're following middle grade characters, which for me are closer to the characters in this book. So, and I also feel like I don't have a great memory when it comes to books, but I do think the plotline in 39 Clues and in this book is very similar from what I remember of that series, possibly even too similar. For those of you that remember it better, let me know when I tell you the plot of this book. In this book, we follow our main character called Avery, who for basically her whole life has felt like she doesn't have any family except for her mom. She doesn't know who her dad is, and she doesn't seem to have any extended family, and she has spent her whole life moving around with her mom because her mom works for the military. She's not like in the military, but she works for them, so they're constantly moving around to different cities, and so she feels like not only does she not have a family, but she never really can settle down in a town anywhere, until one day she gets swept up into this kind of secret society, and she finds out that she does have a dad and a lot of extended family, and it's a really big thing. So basically the best way I can describe it to you is that there were these 12, there still are in this book, these 12 super powerful families that basically run the whole world. Like all of the politicians and things like that are usually, if not always, a part of one of these 12 families, and basically everything that happened in history somehow went back to these 12 families. So like when one of them tried to get more power than the other families, that is what started in this book World War I and World War II, and like why JFK was killed somehow goes back to these families. And even in this book, our main character is like, this is just like a big conspiracy theory, and that is basically what it is, and that is why I am actually really enjoying this book, because I love conspiracy theories, so I'm totally invested in the plot of this book. I am struggling a little bit with it because my one critique is that you definitely have to suspend your belief with this book. As per most YA books, we're following teenagers that are taking on very like adult roles and doing just very questionable things that the average human, even the average adult, wouldn't probably do. For instance, our main character is with a stranger on a plane flying to France within the first like 30 pages of this book because she's been told about this thing going on, and she's not told about this whole thing going on. She's just told something about her family and this secret and this whole thing, and boom, she's on a plane with a stranger off to France. Like, you have to either be really desperate or really stupid to do that, just saying. And especially as just like a teenager character. So that's my one critique of this book, is that you very much have to suspend your belief. But I am really invested in the whole, like, conspiracy theory, like, these families that basically run the whole world, and everything in history revolves back to one of these families. And, like I said, I don't remember perfectly, but I feel like 39 Clues had a very similar plotline. But correct me if I'm wrong if you remember it better than I do. So yeah, that is where we're up to right now. Like I said, hopefully tomorrow I will both finish this book and finish this challenge, and then I'm going to just do a quick wrap up of how long it took me to reach 24 hours worth of reading, how many pages I read, how many books I completed, whether it was worth it or not. It's all up for debate, and we'll all discuss it tomorrow. Hi guys, so it is now the next day and I have officially finished this challenge as well as finished this book, although I feel like this video is probably long enough, so if you want to hear my thoughts on this book, you'll have to stay tuned to my March wrap-up. But yes, we have officially reached the 12-hour mark as far as this vlog, and that means 24 hours in total, so we've got 12 hours and 18 minutes on the clock, plus part 1 of this vlog I read for 12 hours, so we're at 24 hours. Now, what I did throughout the week was that I wrote down how much I read each day. So I wrote all of these times down, like the hours and the minutes, and I decided to add them up just because I was having so many malfunctions with my stopwatch. And when I added these times up, I'm about 20 minutes shy of 24 hours. So I'm not sure where those 20 minutes got lost to. I may actually have to read for 20 more minutes for this challenge to really be complete, but for the sake of my sanity, this challenge has gone on long enough, so we're just gonna say that the 20 minutes is somewhere on here, okay? Even though it's missing somewhere, I don't know where it is. So yeah, I wrote these down every single day because I thought I would break it down by day. If that's interesting to everybody, I don't know. So let's just begin. I started on the 13th and I read for 1 hour and 52 minutes. On the 14th, I read for 1 hour 31 minutes. 15th, 2 hours and 50 minutes. 16th, only 1 hour. The 17th, I didn't read at all. That was a very bad day. The 18th, I read for 2 hours 11 minutes. 19th, 1 hour 34 minutes. 20th, 20 minutes. Again, not a great day. And I think that might be the day where the time got messed up, because that was the day that I ended part 1 of this vlog and started the one that you're watching now. I think that may have been where we're losing 20 minutes. On the 21st, I read for 2 hours. On the 22nd, I read for 1 hour and 16 minutes. On the 23rd, I read for 2 hours 7 minutes. On the 24th, I read for 3 hours. That was my best day of reading. On the 25th, I read for 1 hour and 40 minutes, and then today I read for 2 hours and 12 minutes, and that brings us to the end of this challenge, experiment, whatever you want to call it. So as far as the total number of books read, I actually completed 6 physical books and then 2 audiobooks. And as far as my page count, since some of the books were on the shorter side, I definitely geared towards shorter books these past 2 weeks, I read a grand total of 1,916 pages approximately, and that does not include the audiobook pages, hours, whatever. I think I only listened to about like 6 hours worth of audiobooks, but I also never know how to write down how many hours worth of audiobooks I listen to, because let's say an audiobook is 6 hours long, but I listen to it at 2 times speed. I only listen to it for 3 hours. So do I say that I listen to 6 hours worth of an audiobook or only 3? Like, I don't know what to write down for that, because I keep track of it in my spreadsheet for the year, and I never know whether to say how long the actual duration of the audiobook was or how long I actually listened to it. Let me know in the comments what you do. But I don't really know what to get at the end of this video. Like, I don't know what I was trying to figure out. I feel like this was a bit of a fail, and I've said this in part 1 of this vlog. I said it in this vlog several times. This took me so much longer than I expected it to, and I know when I started this challenge, experiment, whatever, I said that it was really more of an experiment where I was like, I just want to see how long it takes me to read for 24 hours. But in the back of my head, I did actually set myself an end time, which was about a week. I really thought it would only take me a week to read for 24 hours, and it ended up taking me almost exactly 2 weeks. So in that sense, because I did subconsciously set myself a goal, I feel like I failed. But if you look at how much I read, like if you include the audiobooks, it averages to about 4 books a week, and I'm lucky if I read 2 books a week. So this would actually be a pretty successful challenge as far as my reading. And if you look at how I broke it down each day, I usually averaged around 2 hours each day, which again is kind of a lot for me. I also think the reason that I thought I could complete this in a week was because I didn't realize how little I read each day. Like, I think I did the math on my phone, and if I were to have read 24 hours in a week, it would have been around 3 hours and 40 minutes a day if I did the math correctly. And like, only one day did I reach 3 hours worth of reading, much less 3 hours and 40 minutes. So I think I didn't realize quite how long 24 hours is and quite how little I actually read each day. So what do we get from the end of this vlog experiment challenge? I don't really know, but I hope you found it at least a little bit interesting. Like I said, I think it was half a fail and half successful as far as how many books I was able to read. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this vlog. If you think I should attempt this challenge again, let me know in the comments, because it was actually kind of fun to do, and I would like to see if maybe I can actually challenge myself to read for 24 hours within a week period. So let me know. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!